So I will show your copies next week. I have not yet checked them, and then we will discuss the answers also. I hope your exams were okay. The question was easy for the CFD part. So what we are going to do today is we are going to continue our discussion from before the midsem, where we had started discussing about finite volume method. Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us quickly have a recap, okay, because we need some continuity in today's class. Otherwise, you will not be able to connect what we have discussed in the previous class with today's discussion. So what we have discussed is that, say, if we have started with a very simple example, 1D steady state heat conduction with source term. What is our aim? Our aim is to gradually, for first we want to find the finite volume discretized equation for this simple equation. Okay, this is a representative equation where we have a diffusive term. The conductive term here is the diffusive term, and we have a source term. Okay, other equations will also have similar terms. Like for example, if there is a chemical reaction, the concentration term, so there will be a diffusion term and a source term. Similarly, this is equivalent to the viscous term in fluid flow and some source term. Okay. So we know already, you already know that there are four important terms in the governing differential equation: the unsteady term, the convective term, the diffusive term, and the source term. So our aim is to first find the finite volume discretized equation for the diffusive term with source term. Then we want to add one by one more and more complexity. Okay, so what will happen if the source term is non-linear? What will happen if the unsteady term is present? Okay, like this we will keep on adding, and at the end we will also add the convective term in the next chapter. And once everything is done, finally we will see how to solve Navier-Stokes equation towards the end of the course. So before the midsem we have started with a discussion on how to find the finite volume discretized equation for this 1D steady state conduction equation with source term. So for this we had taken a representative geometry. All this we have already studied. I am just repeating this just to refresh your memory. Okay, because this was not there in your syllabus for the CFD exam, so you might have already forgotten. So we had a typical control volume going from small w to small e, which is represented by a grid point at its center. Typically, this grid point is denoted by the symbol P, which denotes that this is the point P. Okay. The right side neighbor or east side neighbor is denoted by the symbol capital E, and the left side neighbor, which is the west side neighbor, is denoted by capital W. Okay, east and west. Similarly, if there is something on the north side on the top, it will be called as N, and something, if it is a 2D problem, something is there in the bottom, we will call it as S. Okay. If it is a 3D problem, we also have two other nodes which are known as top and bottom, T and B. Okay. These are standard practice. So this control volume length is delta x, and the distance between the grid points, we had called it as delta xc, as the distance between P and D, and delta xw, the distance between W and P. So this is generalized form. For a normal problem, most probably you will have delta xc is equal to delta xw is equal to delta x. All these three lengths will be equal if your grid spacing is similar. Okay. If you have different grid spacing, like the grid spacing is varying from one side to the other side, then these values will be different. So then what did we do? We had, if you remember, we had integrated this governing equation over the control volume P. Okay. And the control volume goes from W to E. So we had integrated this equation from W to E, d dx, k dt dx, dx, and the source term also integrating it from W to E s dx. Okay, which gave us the equation k dt dx at the east interface minus k dt dx at the west interface, plus, if it is a constant source term, source into xc minus xw, which is equal to delta x. Okay, so s into delta x. So this part is fixed, S into delta X. So the main issue was that what is the value of k dt dx at the east interface and k dt dx at the west interface. Why was there an issue with this? Because we don't save the temperature values at the interfaces. We only have temperature values at the grid points or nodes. Okay, so we have temperature at capital E, temperature at capital P, temperature at capital W. Now we have to represent this derivatives, okay, in terms of this grid point temperature values. So what we had done, if you remember, we had taken different profile assumptions. Some of them did not work out because they were giving unphysical solutions. For example, there was discontinuity of temperature at the interface, or there was discontinuity of flux at the interface. So finally, the assumption that worked for us was that a linear profile between adjacent grid points. Okay, we assume that the temperature is linearly varying from one grid point to the other grid point. Okay. One very important point to remember here is that this assumption we are taking just for the sake of discretization. Okay, ultimately we will only have the temperature values at the grid points W, P, and E. So we will only have TW, TP, and TE. We will not have any variation between TW, TP, and TE. We are assuming some variation so that we can find the derivatives at the interfaces, and with this we will discretize the equation and solve the problem, but the solution will be discrete values TW, TP, and T, and the solution is not going to change. The correct solution should not change. Whatever is the interpolated term that you are taking, whether you are taking it as linear function or quadratic function, whatever function you are taking, if the interpolation is correct, profile assumption is correct, your solution should be correct. Okay. So with this, what we have done, k dt dx at east can be represented as, so basically this is the slope. So t at east minus t at p divided by delta xc, the distance between these 2 points, okay, into k at the east interface. And similarly, this was kw tp minus tw divided by delta xw plus s into delta x is already there. Okay. And what about ke and kw, k small e and k small w? We had taken them based on, we had seen later that instead of linear averaging, harmonic mean is a better option. Okay, so it is also there in the notes, we have already studied. So the interface values of k we can take in terms of the grid point values of k. So ke can be taken in terms of the grid point values of k at capital E and k at capital P. Similarly, kw can be taken in terms of k at capital W and k at capital P. Okay. So we know how to find ke, k west, delta xc, delta xw also are known from the mesh generation. S is given to us constant value, delta x we know from mesh generation. So only unknowns are TE, TP, and TW. And we reorganize these terms to write a equation in terms of the unknowns of this form. The equation was of this form: APTP equal to AET plus AWTW plus this extra source term whatever was there as B. Okay, where A is KE by delta XC, AW is KW by delta XW, known values. These are known values. And AP is equal to AE plus AW, this is also known, and B is also known, S into delta X. So all the coefficients are known, the 3 temperatures are unknown. So for each control volume, we have discussed this, we can, where is that? We can have one equation for each control volume with 3 unknowns. So if there are n control volumes, we will have n equations, and we can solve them using some method like TDMA. We have discussed what is TDMA, tridiagonal matrix algorithm. So we can solve them to find the temperature values at all the points. Okay, this was our discretized equation using finite volume method for a one-dimensional steady-state heat conduction equation with constant source term. Okay. If it is a more general problem where more than 2 neighboring points are present, like a 2D problem or a 3D problem, the general equation is of the form APTP is equal to summation of all the neighboring points over all the neighboring points, A and B, T and B, where A and B is the coefficient of T and B, plus B. Okay, whatever extra term is there. Again, we will have n equation and n unknowns, and we can solve them together, or we can use some iterative method. So this we had discussed. Okay, and I will skip this part because we have already discussed this overall balance and physical consistency treatment of K. So actually we are going to discuss about source terms today. So I will come to what we had already discussed about source terms. Okay. So then if there is a constant source, we have already seen what is to be done. So there is no additional requirement. We already know that the B term that was present there. What I am going to do is I will why is it not escaping? So for constant source term, we will treat this as integration from west to east. Let me increase the size. West to east s into dx. So s is constant, so we can write this as x into delta x. That is what we had done, if you remember. S into delta x, and that went into the term b. Okay, known term b. So this is no issue. So then second point we had discussed was what if s is a linear function of temperature. Okay, so in that case s can be represented as s is equal to some constant plus some linear function of temperature. Okay, so s is equal to sc plus spTP, where sc is the constant part of the source term and sp is the coefficient of the temperature. Tp is the temperature of pH gate point. Okay, basically s is equal to sc plus spt. In this case we had also solved, so we can write the equation as k dt dx minus k dt dx east minus k dt dx west plus from w to e integration of sc plus spTP dx. Okay, and the equation was only slightly different. So the SCDS part is again similar. So the B will have SC into delta X, and this SPTP, this part will go into the coefficient of TP. Okay, so this also we had already discussed. So KT minus TP by delta XC minus KW TP minus TW by delta XW plus SC plus SPTP into delta X. So which can be again written as APTP is equal to AET plus AWTW plus B. So exact same form, but the values are somewhat different. AE and AW are same. AE is equal to KE by delta XE. AW is KW by delta XW. But AP now has an extra term. AE plus AW minus SP delta X. This comes from this term, SP into delta X, okay, which is the coefficient of extra coefficient of TP. So AE plus AW minus SP delta X, and B is SC into delta X. Okay. So because we already know what are these values of AE, AW, AP and B, we can again solve the equation in a similar way. Ultimately our aim is to always find the equation in this form so that we can solve using any of the methods that we have learned before the midterm. So any questions up to this point? This is a revision of the previous material we had discussed before the midterm. So up to this point, I guess it is okay. Okay. So one other thing we had discussed was that there are 4 criteria. Okay. So we have also discussed what will happen if S is a nonlinear function of t. The expression of S needs to be converted to linear form. Okay. This is known as source term linearization, and iterative method is required. Okay. So today we will see what is this source term linearization, how to make it linear. What if we have a non-linear source term, what to do with it? So that is our aim today. And if you remember, we had concluded before the midterm with some basic rules of finite volume discretization. One was physical consistency of flux at the CV interface. So at the interface, flux should be continuous. Then all the coefficients of the discretized equation should be of same sign, and by convention we had taken them as positive. Why was this required? Because otherwise we get unphysical solutions. If the temperature at any grid point increases, then the neighboring grid point temperature also should increase. It should not decrease. So it cannot decrease. Okay. So say you have a material and you suddenly increase the temperature at one point, its neighboring point temperature also should increase. It cannot decrease. So that's why all the coefficients should be of same sign. And to ensure that all of them are of same sign, it is preferable to have SP as negative. Okay, because AP is equal to AE plus AW minus SP delta S. So our third rule was that if source term is linearized, SP must be negative. Okay. Why SP is what is the significance of that? Is SP, if SP is negative, minus SP delta X is always going to be positive, and A and AW are anyway positive. So this term is always going to be positive. So there is no risk. Okay. Without being negative also we can solve, but you cannot guarantee that we will get the correct solution. So better to have it negative. Okay. And we will see how to make it negative, even if it is not negative. Okay. And another rule was there, which is not very important in this case in our discussion today. So I'll skip it now, and we will go into today's material. Just a second. So we want to see how to treat nonlinear source terms. Okay. This is known as linearization of source term and is very useful because ultimately when we are writing the code, we are writing it in a way for a very general solution. Okay. So for a very general solution, the general solution will have, where is that equation? Will be assuming a linear function of S. Okay. Why is it is considered as a linear function of S? Because if we have a linear function of S, we can easily write the coefficients in this form where B has the constant term and the coefficient of the linear term is included in AP. Okay. So somehow if we can reduce our governing our source term into this form SC plus SPTP, we can use the general code what we have or what we develop for solution of a typical CFD problem. Okay. So for any problem, our target is to reduce the source term into SC plus SPTP type of equation. Now SP can be 0 in case the source term is constant. So SP can be 0 and SC can have some value, or both SC and SP can be 0 if there are no source terms. But we can use the general code in that case also with putting SC and SP equal to 0. However, if it is a say radiation problem where we have a T to the power 4 term, then we need suitable linearization and suitable values of SC and SP. So this will become clear after today's discussion. So this is what I have written here. When S depends on T, it can be expressed in linear form as S is equal to SC plus SPTP. So we want to know how to find the values of SC and SP. Okay. If some value of S is given, we want to know what is SC and what is SP. And remember that this is source term for the control volume P, which is a representative control volume. But this similar types of treatment can be used for any control volume. This is just a typical representative control volume. Okay. Any questions up to this point? Am I still audible? Am I audible? Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let us start with a few examples. Okay. First example is that source term equal to 3 with some units, say 3 watt or whatever. We are not bothered in this case. So in this case, it is very trivial. All of you can say easily what is going to be SC and what is going to be SP. Okay. So because it's a constant value term, we can say that SC is equal to 3 and SP equal to 0. Okay. So we should take SC equal to 3 and SP equal to 0 for this case. So next case is given as source term. Some source term is there in the heat transfer energy equation, where the source term is negatively dependent on temperature. Say S is equal to 3 minus 4T. Okay, negatively dependent on temperature. So if the temperature increases, more energy actually goes away. So if this is the type of source term, we can, one option is to take S is equal to SC equal to 3 and SP equal to -4. Okay, then we will have the same type of equation. For the pth control volume, we will have 3 minus 4 Tp, because for the pth control volume T is Tp. So 3 minus 4 Tp. Okay, so I can take SC is equal to 3 and SP equal to -4, and this will satisfy our condition that SP is negative. Okay, so there is no issue with this. Please ask me any questions if you don't understand something. Okay, this part is important. So we can take SC as 3 and SP as -4. This is the obvious form. Okay. However, this is not the only option. We have other options also. What is another option? We can also take SC equal to 3 minus 4 Tp star. What is Tp star? Tp star is the old iteration value, previous iteration value of temperature. Okay. So it's a known quantity. T is an unknown quantity. Tp is an unknown quantity, but Tp star is the known value from the previous iteration. Okay. So because it's a known value, we can put it in the constant part because it is part of all the known values. Okay. So we can take 3 minus 4 Tp star and SP to be equal to 0. Okay. This is also another way of representing the source term. If you take this type of source term, you will need to solve using iteration. Why you will need iteration? Because you are using previous iteration value of Tp star. So you are getting a slightly different value of S. Okay. So for the next iteration, you will get a new value of temperature, and using that you will get a new value of S, and you will keep on continuing doing that until the Tp star does not change anymore. Okay. So when that happens, we say that we have convergence. We have achieved convergence, or the change is very small, 10 to the power -4 or -5, something like that. We say that we have already achieved convergence, and we stop the iteration and go to the next time step. Okay. So this is one option. SC is equal to 3 minus 4 Tp star and SP equal to 0. Okay. So any source term can be used in this form. Whatever is the complicated source term. Say I have A plus or 10 plus 20 into e to the power t or something like that. 20 into e to the power minus t. Okay, some exponent or some sine function. Sine 40 minus cos 60. Okay. So any whatever is the source term, we can always write it in terms of previous iteration value of temperature, because that will be known. So if we have 3 sine t plus 4 cos t, we can write this as S is equal to 3 sine Tp star plus 4 cos Tp star and SP equal to 0. Okay. So this approach is known as lazy approach, because you are just putting everything together in the constant term and not taking any other term. This will lead to correct solution, but may take somewhat longer time if it is say if the system is complicated, it may take longer time to get to convergence. This type of approach is very useful if the source term is very complicated. As I was saying, if the source term is very complicated, you take this approach. Okay, where you club everything in the constant term and there is no other term. Okay, everything is clubbed together in the constant term if you cannot linearize. Another option is also there. We can take even like this: SC is equal to 3 plus 2 Tp star and SP equal to -6. You see that what is happening? 3 plus 2 Tp star. So there is 2 Tp minus, so 2 Tp star, which is the old time step value, and -6 Tp will still be there, right? Because we have the term SPTP. So -6 Tp will be there. So ultimately it is similar to 3 minus 4T. Okay. Because we have +2 -6. So this is also another approach, and this is actually what we are doing is we are taking a steeper slope. Okay, the actual slope is -4, but we are taking a slope of -6. Okay, we are taking a steeper S versus T curve than the actual case. It will slow down the rate of convergence. Why will it slow down the rate of convergence? Because you are going towards the convergence at a certain rate depending on how fast you can approximate the correct solution. So if you take the correct slope, which is -4, okay, then you will approach the correct solution at a faster rate. If you take a different slope, then you will approach at a slower rate. Okay, but sometimes it is necessary to slow down the convergence. Why is it necessary? What can be a situation when it is necessary? Can somebody say what can be a condition when it is better to slow down the convergence? Or is it always better to have fast convergence? Is it clear to everyone what is convergence? We have discussed already. No answers. What are you guys doing? Let me open one case, okay, which we had discussed previously. So this was what we had discussed once. Okay, we had two equations and two unknowns, and this was part of your syllabus, so you should remember. We started from some initial guess 0 0, and we wanted to go towards the correct solution. Correct solution was 1 and 4. So gradually we found that after first iteration the value is 3 and 4.33. Second iteration is 0.834 and 3.333. Third iteration is 1.34 and 4.056. Like this we iterated, and we stopped at some point. Okay. So how will you decide at what point to stop? Because you don't know the correct solution. In this case, we are lucky to know the correct solution. In the actual CFD problem, you don't know the correct solution. So how will you decide where to stop? After how many iterations to stop?
So, difference between previous and attained value should be less.
Yes, good. So difference between previous and current value should be less than some criteria which we specify, which is known as convergence criteria. Okay. So it can be less than 10 to the power -6 or 10 to the power -4, something like that. Generally, we take the relative difference. Okay. So previous current value minus previous value divided by current value, because relative difference gives you the better, means it is actually a better option for calculating this. But ultimately, it's the difference between two consecutive iterations, and if it is less than a certain value, we say that we are happy with the solution. We don't need even more accurate solution. So typically we take it to be 10 to the -4, -5, or 10 to the -6 for accurate calculations, depending on the problem. Okay. So same thing. Same thing can be done, or same thing will happen in this case also. So we will have to check what is the previous iteration value of temperature and what is the current iteration value of temperature, and how much change is occurring. And if the change is less than 10 to the power -6 for all the grid points, okay, we have to check for all the grid points, not a single grid point. So if there are 1 lakh grid points or 1 million grid points, we have to check for 1 million grid points. And if even if at any location the value is not satisfying the convergence criteria, we have to keep on iterating. So once at all the grid points the values satisfy the convergence criteria, we can go to the next time step. We can stop the iteration and say that the result has converged and go to the next time step. Okay. So now the follow-up question is, obviously convergence, if it is faster, our simulation will run faster. Okay, faster convergence means quickly we are going to the correct solution and we are going to the next time step. Simulation will run faster. So what can be a situation when the convergence, slower convergence is beneficial? say, consider a situation. Okay, consider a situation where there is the change in the source term is very nonlinear, means it drastically changes with temperature, like a radiation problem, T to the power 4 dependence or something like that. Okay, so a small fluctuation in temperature drastically changes the source term value. Okay, so in those cases, what will happen? If you have large time steps, okay, like an implicit problem, if you have large time steps, in a single time step, the change may be quite large. Change in temperature may be quite large, and the source term will drastically change. And as a result, what will happen? Because of very large change in the source term, the temperature will also, because the source term will dictate what will be the new temperature. So the new temperature will also drastically change. Okay, and it may go towards the opposite direction. Say if the correct value is 100 and our previous iteration value is 110, it may become 70 in the next iteration. It may go in the opposite direction to a large degree. Okay, so there may be a chance of divergence if it is if the convergence is too fast. If we can slow down the convergence by some method, okay, then the chances of convergence will increase. Okay, there are two different aspects to convergence. One is the rate of convergence, one is the chance of convergence. Those two are two different things. Sometimes people confuse these two things. Okay, rate of convergence is how fast you are going towards convergence, and chance of convergence is whether the solution will converge or whether it will diverge. So if you increase the chance of convergence, it need not mean that the rate of convergence will also increase. I can slow down the convergence, slow down the rate of convergence, but increase the chance of convergence. Okay, or the opposite can happen. I can increase the rate of convergence, but chance of divergence will increase. Convergence chances will decrease because of larger fluctuation in each iteration. Okay, so in those type of problems, highly nonlinear problems, it is sometimes useful to slow down the convergence by taking a steeper slope. Is it clear to everyone, or is there any question? Why slowing down convergence is helpful? We will see another method of slowing down convergence using something called under relaxation. So if some of you are using, say, softwares like ANSYS Fluent, you will see that there is something called relaxation parameter or under relaxation parameter. I don't know the exact term what they are using, but it is the same thing, which we will study later on, maybe tomorrow, where we will see that by varying that parameter also you can slow down the convergence. And by slowing down the convergence, whenever you are having convergence issues with your ANSYS simulations, you can lower the value of the under relaxation parameter. If you make it lower, your chances of convergence will increase, but the convergence rate will slow down. Okay. We'll discuss it in the next class most probably. So anyway, so this is another approach. So it is up to us to decide which one to take. First one was the obvious approach. Second one is the lazy approach, and third one is for specific cases. For this case, it does not make much sense, but for other cases, it may be useful. Okay, highly nonlinear type of equation. So it need not mean that we can only divide it into 3 plus 2 TP star and SP is minus 6. I could have taken 3 plus 3 TP star and SP is minus 7 also. Okay, or 3 plus TP star and SPS minus 5. So it is up to us to decide how much steeper we will. Next option is, so these two I think you are very much able to understand. If S is constant, we know what should be taken, and if S is 3 minus 40, we can also know what can be taken. Okay, so what about S is equal to 3 plus 40? In that case, what should be the value of SC and SP? Can anybody answer? What is the obvious choice in this case? No answers. I will randomly ask people. Karthik, are you there?
Yes, sir. Sir, SC will be 3, SP will be 4.
SC will be 3 and SP will be 4. But that actually, that will violate our, but that is not possible, right? Because SP has to be negative. We had already mentioned. Because if SP is positive, then there is a chance that AP will become negative, which is not helpful, which is like prohibited, you can say. So we cannot take positive.
In terms of previous value, like we did in the previous case.
Yes. So in this case, we cannot write SC equal to 3 and SP equal to 4 because SP is positive and AP may become negative. So the common option in this case is actually SC is equal to 3 plus 4 TP star and SP equal to 0. Okay. This is what we should normally follow in this case whenever there is a positive dependence. Okay. However, there are other options also, like we have done in the previous case. For example, we can take SC is equal to 3 plus 6 TP star and SP as minus 2. Okay. Again, to slow down the rate of convergence, we can do like this also. Common option is that whenever there is positive term, we put everything in SC and SP equal to 0. But if we want other options to slow down the convergence, we can also take this as 3 plus 6 TP star or 3 plus 8 TP star and SP as minus 4, something like that. Okay. Then what about? So up till now we are just treating linear source terms. What about a nonlinear function? Say S is equal to 3 minus 4t cube. Okay. How will we treat that? What will be SC and SP?
So then again SP will be 3 minus 4 T star cube and then SP will be 0.
That is one approach. That is the lazy approach. Okay. SC is equal to 3 minus 4 TP star cube and SP equal to 0. But there are better approaches. Okay. Better solutions which will lead to faster convergence. Okay. What we are like when you are taking the lazy option, we are actually not utilizing the full potential of the system. Means we are not going towards convergence as the most optimum rate. Okay. We are just easing our work of calculating the source term, but in general this will slow down the convergence because the slope is not correctly taken. Okay. Remember that we can take a linear function. Okay. We are trying to linearize this. So there may be a better linear approximation of this curve. Okay. This is a curve where there can be a better linear approximation. So let us try to understand that. Okay. So what can be a better option? So let us consider any so arbitrary source term. Okay. S, which is a function of temperature. And we have drawn an arbitrary curve S as a function of temperature. Okay. S varies with temperature in some way. So at any point, at any value of temperature Tp star, the value of S is say S star. Okay. So for any particular value Tp star, S is S star. At some other value of T, the value of S will also be different according to this curve. Okay. So we can make the linearization more accurate. Okay. If we instead of just taking, so what we were initially doing, if you just take this, we are assuming that say at any point, at any other temperature T also, you are taking that S to be equal to whatever is the S value at Tp star. Okay, this value. Okay, I can, maybe it is better to draw something. So we are taking this value, even though our actual temperature may be this temperature. Okay, so our temperature is this temperature, some temperature T. Very difficult to write using the mouse. And we want, so this temperature T is unknown in the equation. We want this source term, so we are approximating it using the previous iteration value. Previous iteration value is say Tp star. This is Tp, okay, or T. So previous iteration value is this value. So based on this, we find the source term as 4 whatever was the value, 3 minus 4 t cube. Okay, this is our lazy man approach or lazy approach. Okay, but a better approximation is that if you can also approximate the slope, okay, slope of the line, then you will be able to predict in a better way what will be the value at t. Okay, so based on the slope of the line and the distance between these 2 points. If you know what is the slope of the line and the distance between these 2 points, my diagram is very inaccurate. I'm trying to draw an arrow. So based on this, we will be able to predict where the line intersects this. Okay. So our calculation of source term will be more accurate. Actually, we will not be able to hit the correct point. Okay. So what will happen is that, why does Control Z does not work here? Okay. So actually we don't know what is this point, right? We know this point, but we don't know what is this point. So we can only calculate the slope at this TP star, which is the known value. So we have to calculate based on this slope. So difficult to draw using this. I guess you get the idea. Okay. Although the diagram is very inaccurate, I will use my writing pad. This is too inaccurate. Can you see the whiteboard?
Yes, sir.
What is it? So let me redraw this again. Okay. So we have a curve like this, and this is S and this is T. Okay, some variation of S with T, and old iteration value of T is TP star. Okay, this is known value, and at this known value we can obviously calculate what is the source term, because the equation is given to us. Say it is given as 3 minus 4T cube, something like that is given. Okay, so if you know TP, you can always calculate. So next temperature value is unknown. Next iteration temperature value is obviously unknown. So that's why we cannot calculate what is the actual source term in the next temperature iteration value. Okay, so this should have been the ideal value, but we don't know this because we don't know what is the next temperature value. Okay. So what we can do is we can find the slope at this point. We can find the slope at this point and write, and based on this difference, T minus TP star. TP star is known, T is unknown. Based on this difference and based on this slope, we can find out this height also. So we can find out what is the value at this point, because we know the value at this point, we can find the value at this point, and this is a better approximate as compared to this value. Okay, as you can see, this value is equal to this, and our new approximation is this value, and the correct solution would have been this value. Okay, so now we have a better approximation if we can find the slope of the line curve at the known value of T. Okay, by using the slope and the difference, we should be able to write this source term in terms of unknown temperature T. So we will see how to do it. Okay, if it is not clear, it will be clear in a second once we go through an example. Okay. So we make the linearization more accurate by also representing the first order derivative correctly. Okay, by taking the slope correctly. So for a point S, small distance away from S star, as we have seen already. Why is it again? Okay, this is better. So small distance away, if we have a point S small distance away from S star, we can write S minus S star is equal to ds dt at t equal to Tp star into T minus Tp star. Okay, if this is very small, infinitely small distance, this will be correct, exactly correct. Otherwise, this is an approximation. Okay, so S minus S star, where S is small distance away, is equal to approximately equal to ds dt at t equal to Tp star multiplied by T minus Tp star. So we are multiplying the slope with this value to get this value. Okay, S minus S star. This is our S value, approximate S value. This is not the exact S value, but it is a better approximation. Okay, this is the point we are trying to find. Any questions up to this point? Is it clear or should I repeat?
It's clear.
So coming back to our example now, we have S is equal to 3 minus 40 cube. Okay, so we can write S star, which is a known value, as 3 minus 4 Tp star cube. Okay, Tp will be known value, so Tp star cube, and the slope at T star will be ds dt. ds dt is nothing but 12t square. Okay, so slope at Tp star is equal to minus 12 Tp star square, which is a known value, right? Tp star is known from previous iteration. Star values are known. So the slope from the previous iteration value is known. Okay. So now I can write this as S minus S star is equal to minus 12 Tp star square into T minus Tp star. Okay, now I can close this. I'll just keep this open. Okay. So S minus S star is equal to minus 12 Tp star square into T minus Tp star. Now you just do some algebraic rearrangement. So S minus S star is equal to this. So what is S star, which we have already established, is 3 minus 4 Tp star cube. Okay. So S minus 3 minus 4 Tp star cube is equal to minus 12 Tp star square into T. T is unknown, remember. 12 Tp star cube. Okay. By rearranging, we find that S is equal to 3 plus 8 Tp star cube minus 12 Tp star square T. Okay. This is the linearized form of the equation. Okay. So what will be our SC? The constant value is the known value, 3 plus 8 Tp star cube. Okay, this is the constant part, SC. And the linear part is this, minus 12 Tp star square into T. Okay, so the coefficient SP will be minus 12 Tp star square in this case. So SC is equal to 3 plus 8 Tp star cube, SP is equal to minus 12 Tp star square. Okay, and as SP is negative, this is a valid approximation. Okay, so this will lead to faster convergence because this approximates the source term in a better way. We will reach the convergence at a faster rate. So this is a better approximation than our lazy approach. Okay, although lazy approach will also work, but because we have a better option, we should go with the better option. So which is the linearized form of the equation. Any questions? This is how you have to do linearization. Any other problem also you should be able to linearize using the same type of method. Okay, any other source term, say source term is given as a plus bt square. Okay, so you should be able to find out what is SC and what is SP in that case. Something like a radiation problem is given. Okay, convection radiation problem. So H into T minus something T reference plus sigma into T to the power 4 minus T reference to the power 4. That also you should be able to find out what is the linearized form of the equation. So similar problems you can think about other similar problems where you can find out the linear form. Okay. So what about next option? Say S is equal to 3 plus 40 cube plus 40 cube instead of minus 40 cube. In this case, what is the best option? So if we do a linearization in this case, let us do a linearization. S star is equal to 3 plus 4 Tp star cube, or ds dt at t is equal to Tp star is equal to 12 Tp star square. So we are just taking the derivative and putting Tp star. So S minus S star is equal to ds dt at t minus Tp star. ds dt at t minus Tp star, t equal to Tp star, sorry, multiplied by t minus Tp star. So ds dt at t equal to Tp star, we have already calculated here, 12 Tp star square. So S minus 3 plus 4 Tp star cube equal to 12 Tp star square into t minus Tp star. So this leads to a value of Sc which is 3 minus 8 Tp star cube, and Sp is equal to plus 12 Tp star square. This is not going to work because Sp is positive. Okay, so this linearization is not going to work. So it does not mean that always we can linearize any equation and it should be possible to use that. Okay, so linearize is just one method, but it may not always give you feasible solution. Okay, for example, this case that did not work out because we had a positive slope. As a result, Sp became positive. Okay, we need a negative slope. So in this case, what is our option?
S equal 3 plus 40 cube.
Yes, we don't have any other option, so we have to take the lazy approach here. So best option for this case is Sc is equal to 3 plus 4 Tp star cube and Sp equal to 0. Okay, so in conclusion, mathematically we can always perform Sjöström linearization. Okay, we can always linearize an equation, but it may not always work in CFD problems because the slope may become positive and we cannot take positive slope. For example, even the diagram that I am showing, this will give you a positive slope, and positive slopes are not acceptable for us. In that case, the best option is to take the lazy approach and dump everything in the constant part of the source term and take the linear coefficient to be 0. Okay. So this type of small problems can be asked in the next exam. Okay. For example, I can ask you to do a source term linearization of a certain, say, source term. Okay. So, or what will be, I can ask you what is the suitable value of, or what will be the suitable value of Sc and Sp for this. So it may not be possible to linearize. So if you do a linearization and find that it is not possible to use that, then you have to state what is the alternate best possible option for those cases. Okay, so something like that. And you can use the same approach for even in real life also when you are writing some code. The code is generally, we write the code in terms of Sc and Sp. And depending on different problems, say for example, radiation is present, convection is present, whatever is present, we take suitable values of Sc and Sp in the problem. So the code is written in a general form, including Sc and Sp. If there are no such terms, Sc and Sp both are taken equal to 0, and the code will run as if there is no such term. It is always better to write a general code which can be used for multiple occasions, okay, instead of hard coding something which cannot be changed later on. We'll take a break here and we'll continue this discussion after the break. All right, I am back. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Any questions? No questions. This batch is very silent. Previous batch used to ask a lot of questions. And actually we had interesting discussions also. So you should be more proactive, ask more questions. It benefits others also. So some of you who understands better, if you ask a question, it clarifies doubts for others also. Anyway, let us continue. So before going into the next part, okay, we also need to discuss briefly about the boundary conditions, how to treat the boundary conditions in the equations. So whatever we have discussed till now are valid for the internal grid points. Means we have assumed that P is a representative grid point, and based on that we have found what should be the discretized equation for that grid point. For example, for the PH grid point, what was the discretized equation? This was the discretized equation, right? APTP equal to AET plus AWTW plus B, where we knew what are the values of AE, AW, AP and B. Okay, this is for a conduction problem, one-dimensional conduction problem with linear source term. And we know now that how to take a non-linear source term and make it linear. So whatever is the constant part will come into this B after doing that linearization, and whatever is the SP part that will come into this AP. So for example, for this problem, this B will contain 3 plus 8 TP star cube into delta X, where TP star cube will be the previous iteration value of TP, and this SP delta X will contain minus 12 TP star square into delta X. Again, this is previous iteration value. This is known. So AP and B will be known in this case also. So anyway, so this is valid for the internal grid points. What about the boundary grid points? How will we treat them? Let us think of a few situations, okay, and see how to treat these boundary grid points or the grid points adjacent to the boundaries. Okay. So for example, if we consider that temperature is given, first example is the temperature itself is given, values are given. So it is if it's an energy equation problem, temperature is given. If it is a flow problem, velocities are given. Whatever is the variable, its values are given. So for a flow problem, the velocity is given. Okay. For a concentration problem, the concentration itself is given. So variable values are given at the two boundaries or at any boundary. Okay. So if this is the case, for in general for the internal grid points there is no issue. We will still use the same equation, APTP equal to AET plus AWTW plus B. Okay. And T1 and T7, these are the grid points on the boundary. Their values are known because they are given to us. Okay, T1 say is equal to TA and T7 is equal to TB. TA and TB are given to us. So maybe it is 100 degrees centigrade and this is 50 degrees centigrade. These values are known. So for the adjacent grid point 2, we can write A2 T2 equal to, so similar way to this, okay. A2 T2 is equal to A3 T3, the east neighbor, plus A1 T1, the west neighbor, plus B, okay. The value of A1 will be slightly different because the distance is different here. It is half grid point, half control volume, but the nature of the equation is same. A2 T2 equal to A3 T3 plus A1 T1 plus B. And because T1 is already given or already known, we can just replace this T1 as TA. Okay. So this will become a known value, A1 into TA. And we can incorporate this value in the source term value B. Okay. So instead of B, we can write this entire thing as B dash. Okay. So ultimately this equation will be A2 T2 equal to A3 T3 plus B dash. This is also of the same form where one of the coefficient is 0 and you have a source term and then two unknowns are there. Okay. So it will be, so if we have n unknowns and n equation, this will be one equation. Okay. And we can solve it in the same way what we have done previously. Same thing for the right hand side also. Okay. Now if flux is given, second type of condition may be that instead of the values, the flux is given. Okay, for example, heat flux is given, mass flux is given, something is given. Okay, so flux means that, say for this side, the flux is given. Flux is equal to Q double dash at x equal to L. Okay, so Q double dash is equal to minus K dt dx. Remember that heat flux is equal to minus K dt dx. Okay, so we will use that information in this case. So again, integrating for this control volume, okay, between 6 to 7. Okay, so for this half control volume between 6 to 7, this is the control volume for this case. Okay, 7th grid point, because 7th grid point temperature is also not now unknown. You don't know the temperature because heat flux is given, temperature is unknown. So this is also part of the unknown points. So if in the previous case here, say there are total 7 points, we will actually have 5 unknowns and 5 equations. In this case, this point the value is known, so we will have 6 unknowns and 6 equations. Okay, including this point. Okay, so for this half cell control volume, 6 to 7 d dx of K dt dx integration plus integral of s dx from 6 to 7. Okay, this can be written as K dt dx at 7 minus K dt dx at 6 plus s into delta x by 2. Okay, for this half control volume. So K dt dx at 6 we can calculate based on the linear interpolation that we already have done previously. We can write it in terms of T7 and T5. Okay, like we have done previously, or T7 and T6. What about K dt dx 7? Because there is no other point on the other side of 7. So how will we write what is K dt dx at 7? Answers.
Minus Q double dash.
Minus Q double dash, correct, good. So Q double dash is minus K dt dx at 7, so this will be minus Q double dash. Okay, so minus Q double dash minus K T7 minus Tx T6, okay, this part, by delta x by 2 plus s delta x by 2. Once you rearrange this term, you will have A7 T7 is equal to A6 T6 plus B dash. Okay, there is no T8 term here, no T8 comes into picture. Only T7 and T6 terms are there. Q double dash is a known term, S is known term. Okay, so whatever this Q double dash, we are incorporating it together with S delta x2 in the B dash term. Okay, so it is of the same form as APTP equal to AET plus AWTW plus B, and we have one equation, and these unknowns are there, and it will be also part of the solution equations. And we can assume linear profile like we had done previously. Okay, so there is no issue if we have heat flux also given. Okay, third type of boundary condition can be that convection type of condition is given at the boundary. Okay, instead of giving the heat flux, it is given in terms of some outside temperature value like convection or radiation type of value. So minus K dt dx at x equal to L is equal to H into Tx at L minus T infinity. What is the difference numerically between this example 3 and example 2? Numerically, is it different? Means when we are discretizing, what change is occurring in this example 3, which was not there in example 2? Example 2, Q dash was given to us, right? Directly we could replace it. In this case, when we replace it in terms of H Tx minus T infinity, Tx at L minus T infinity, one more unknown T will be there. Okay, T at this grid point. So this will also become part of the coefficient AP. Okay, so that's why the coefficient AP will have a different form. Otherwise, nothing is different. Okay, so again we can write this as what we had written, minus Q double dash at x equal to L minus K T8 minus T7. So this is the T8 point, T8 minus T7 by delta x by 2 plus S delta x by 2. So this is equal to negative of heat flux is equal to minus H T8. T at x equal to L is T8. T8 minus T infinity. T infinity is given to us. It's a known parameter outside temperature. Okay. And T8 is unknown. So minus H T8 minus T infinity, and the rest of the terms are still there. Minus 2K by delta x. T8 minus T7 plus S into delta x by 2. Again, if you rearrange, you have only terms of T8 and T7. And whatever extra is there, like T infinity into H, S delta x, all this can be coupled together in the B dash term. Okay. So our final equation will be of the form A8 dash T8 equal to A7 T7 plus B dash equal to 0. Why I am writing A8 dash? Because we have an additional H in the coefficient. Okay. Instead of just this term, we have an additional H in the coefficient. That's why we are writing it like this. But it is also known. H is given to us. So ultimately, this is also a known form. Again, we can use the same equation. Like we have 7 unknowns here. 1 is known, so 7 unknowns and 7 equations will be there. So we can solve the 7 unknowns, 7 equations to find the 7 unknowns. Okay. Only thing is that values of 8 and B will be different, but it does not matter during the solution process. Is it clear, all these cases, or is there any question? So this is how we should treat the boundary conditions. Okay. And we have to be careful about boundary conditions. Many students make mistakes while writing code. They forget this is half domain or something like that. So the heat flux becomes twice the value or half the value. So these things have to be checked carefully. What is in different codes? If you are using an old code somebody else has written, which is the typically that case when you are doing some project, you will be using some previously written code. You have to check the code whether how they are taking the boundary value, whether they are taking half control volume or full control volume. Accordingly, you have to give the heat flux. Okay. Questions? Let me see what else is there. I think we will continue this part in the next class tomorrow. Okay, unsteady one-dimensional conduction, and we will finish this part. So this will conclude our chapter tomorrow, and then from the next week, we will have we'll go into the next chapter, which is convection diffusion problems. Till now we are studying conduction problems only, means typical diffusion problems. So we will go to the next chapter, which is convection diffusion problem. So these parts are there in the book by Patankar. Okay, we are closely following the book by Patankar. You can read the book also. Same things you will be able to read from there. What I am describing. Okay, I am closely following the book. From now onwards towards the end, up to the end, we will be closely following the book. Okay, you can just read the book also. I think we will stop our class today early itself. Okay, and we'll continue this discussion in tomorrow morning's class. Tomorrow morning we have a class, right, at 9 o'clock. We'll continue at that time. And next week I will show you your papers, means marks at least. I don't know how to show your papers. I will just show what are the marks you have obtained in different questions and what are the answers of the different questions. Because I will not be marking on the paper itself. I will be putting my marks on an Excel sheet. So if there is no questions, I am going to stop the